2021 has been another pretty good year in the video game industry. We had a good amount of great titles dropping all throughout the year, in a lot of different genres. I hear more people talk about how awesome 2022 is going to be, rather than appreciating all the good games we've gotten this year. And yes, 2022 is looking to be another great year. Like, seriously. This was also the first full year the 9th generation of consoles have been on the market, and as a PS5 owner, I can say it was good. Not outstanding, but we've gotten a few titles that do a great job at showcasing the new features of this next-gen hardware. For this list, I'm only going to be counting games that actually released this year, and I'll also try to stay spoiler-free. I didn't play every game this year, but either way, just remember that my opinions are objective facts, and if you disagree, then you should go see a doctor. Anyways, let's begin. This year gave us another new Mario Party game, and it's really solid. Heck, it might even be my favorite Mario Party of all time. It was the first game in the entire series to get an 80 or higher on Metacritic, and it was for good reason. Remember in 2017, when Nintendo released Mario Party The Top 100, which supposedly had 100 of the best minigames from across the entire series? It sounded like a great idea, but there was only one damn board. I haven't played the game for myself, so I can't comment on the minigames, but yeah, it was a disappointment. Mario Party Superstars revisits that idea by bringing back over 100 minigames from the N64 and GameCube games, with 5 boards from the N64 games. Like, come on, the boards were just as, if not more, important than the minigames in my opinion, because those two strike a balance between luck and skill. I hear most people rave about how awesome the GameCube games were, but I never really played them, to be honest. Like, yeah, I own a few of them, but when I was a kid, I mostly just played the Mario Party games on the N64. I don't know how it ended up like that, because I didn't play that many N64 games back then, but I always just played those games, so it was nice to see some of those boards come back. Yoshi's Tropical Island is alright. The gimmick where the star can switch sides is kinda cool, and it complements the board's short size. Spaceland is my personal favorite, because the center of the board lets you take a few different paths, as well as charge up a laser that'll hit anyone in his path, and you can push back other players, which admittedly can get kind of annoying when you can't escape the top left part of the map. Peach's Birthday Cake kinda feels like a game of Monopoly, because the star never moves, and you can plant piranha plants that can either steal coins or an entire star. You know, kinda like how landing on property works in Monopoly. Woody Woods is kinda like Yoshi's Tropical Island, but instead it has these arrows that constantly change the path you're going on. Honestly, I feel like this map is just too big for this gimmick, which makes it kinda hard to get stars, so it's just kinda meh. Horrorland is this Halloween themed place with a day and night cycle that will change things on the board. I didn't play much of this one, to be honest, so I can't comment much on it. The minigames were all really fun too, and in general, this game is just a great party game. There is one downside, and that's how there aren't as many characters as there were in Super Mario Party. I mean, sure, I don't give a rat's ass about Pom Pom, Monty Mole, and Goomba, but no Diddy Kong, Dry Bones, or Toad. I know Toad wasn't in that game, but come on, he should still be playable. Also, some 1v3 minigames still feel unbalanced, which I guess is because they just reuse the minigames, but whatever. Regardless, this game is an awesome party game that fortunately had online at launch, unlike Super Mario Party that got online 2.5 years after the game's release. Why, Nintendo? And the online servers are, well, they aren't abysmal like Mario Maker 2, but there is more lag in this game than most other online games I play, because, you know, it's Nintendo, but it's passable. Like, come on guys, I bought your stupid expansion pack for your online subscription, and the servers are still alright at best. Mario Party is one of those games where you really don't want lag, because some minigames are just impossible with it. Regardless, if you're looking for a nice party game to play with your friends, I can highly recommend Mario Party Superstars. It's full of the fun, random, friendship-breaking goodness that Mario Party has been known for, and executes it very well. So even if the game makes me scream at the top of my lungs because the plunger chest stole a fucking skeleton key instead of a golden pipe, I still had a great time with it. This year brought us another mainline Resident Evil game, Resident Evil Village, that continues using the formula established by its predecessor, RE7, as well as having a Roman numeral somewhere in the logo. Capcom, I'd love to see how you can do this with IX. The game has a very strong opening in my opinion, with you being left with tons of questions and the resources are low, and the first main area you explore was already the highlight of the game. Beyond that, the story is still entertaining, but nothing too special. I did like some of the characters a lot, like Heisenberg and Lady Dimitrescu, Dimitrescu, the internet's favorite big titty vampire. I didn't feel a very strong connection with Ethan Winters, to be honest, because I feel he could be a little dense at times, but I did enjoy seeing him endure all the extreme things to save his daughter. Also, Chris is a fucking dumbass. I'm not going to spoil anything, but 3 words, just 3 words could have made the game a lot shorter. Village kind of feels like a mix of the formula established in Biohazard, while also having elements from RE4. The controls are very smooth, combat is always very fun, thanks to the variety of enemies, guns, and boss fights, which are always pretty fun. However, around the first hour or 2 of the game, I never felt like I was very low on resources, mainly because the crafting materials take up no space in your inventory. I feel like this alone could have gone a long way in making it feel more like a survival horror game, where managing your inventory is relevant. There is definitely some horror to be found, like Heisenberg's terrifying creatures in his factory, Dimitrescu pursuing you in her castle, ready to kill you at any minute, and this damn fetus. Most of the locations you explore are enjoyable, like Dimitrescu's castle, Heisenberg's factory, and the village itself. There were some chunks of the game I wasn't the biggest fan of, like the House of Beneviento. I've heard a lot of people say this is their favorite part of the game actually, so maybe there's some hidden metaphorical message that I'm missing here, but I just thought it was kind of boring, sorry. I did think it was cool how every location focuses on a different style of horror, to make for a varied experience. The Mercenaries mode was pretty fun, and I hear that RE games are great with replayability, but I didn't replay it much for this video, to be honest. It's lacking in some areas, mainly because I can't decide to be more like RE4 or RE7, but overall, I still had a lot of fun with this one. Hopefully Village being this low on the list doesn't piss some people off, because I hear a lot of people say this is their game of the year, and if that's the case, then more power to you. I of course enjoyed my time with Village, but I personally think there are some better games this year. In fact, let's talk about some more of those. Guardians of the Galaxy isn't a game I really expected to play this year because of my lack of knowledge regarding anything about them, but I heard it was good, and when I played it, I was genuinely surprised with its quality. I have to say, I love the dynamic between all the members. Peter Quill has a good heart, but can be a little dorky at times, but seeing him try his hardest to be the best leader he can was really endearing. I loved Drax's straightforward attitude and lack of understanding for sarcasm. I also find him reading a book about it to be really funny. Rocket is really cocky and arrogant, and he has a short temper. He can be pretty funny at times, but also annoying because he can be kinda unlikable sometimes. Gamora is strong and friendly, and Groot, well, he is Groot. I love him. This game won the award for Best Narrative at the Game Awards, and I can't really agree or disagree with that because, to be honest, I didn't finish it for this video. I only played around 8 or 9 hours, but I really enjoyed my time with the game, and I plan to finish the game soon. I just really needed to get this video done, okay? So there is a chance that if I actually finished it, it could have been even higher, so sorry about that. The gameplay was very entertaining as well, with combat that was always very fun and never got old. At first, I was kinda confused as to why you couldn't just directly control the other Guardians, because you only play as Peter Quill, who commands the Guardians, but I adjusted to it quickly and ended up having a lot of fun. You can upgrade all your members to learn new moves, so you're always getting new toys to play with in battle, and the variety kept things consistently fun. Overall, it's just really fun, and having to command your members really tied in with the theme of teamwork this game has. Exploration was always enjoyable, because the puzzles are usually pretty interesting, and so are the locations, not to mention how I love all the conversations between the Guardians. It's also a beautiful game with a surprisingly good soundtrack. I don't see that often in a lot of AAA games, because most of the time it's just generic and forgettable, but passable. They got a lot of licensed 80s music, which is really cool in my opinion. I remember at the very beginning of the game, where you play as Peter when he was a kid, he's sitting in bed jamming to the band Star-Lord, and I genuinely sat there for like 2 minutes just jamming out to the music because what can I say, it fucking slaps. I have some minor complaints, like how the jumping animation looked a little awkward, and a sprint button would be nice because Peter is kinda slow, but who cares about that stuff? Because I just really enjoyed this game. You don't need to know a lot about the Guardians of the Galaxy to enjoy this game, because I basically went in blind and thought it was really good. I first played Undertale probably a year or 2 after its release back in 2015, and I fell in love with the game. I'm obviously not very big into the fandom now or anything, but yeah, I could still say it's a pretty good game. Likewise, when Toby Fox gave us access to the first chapter of Deltarune a few years ago, I was also very excited. When I played it, I also fell in love with that game. I loved all the charming characters and the way it builds off of elements in Undertale, while still having its own unique spin. And as you all know, in 2021 he released the second chapter, and it took me around a month or 2 to actually play it, but as soon as I started playing, I was reminded of why I love his games to begin with. The characters are all very charming and endearing. I loved Susie and Ralsei in Chapter 1, and I love them again here. I gotta say though, Ralsei, you look better with the mask on. We also get to see Chris and Susie's bond grow even stronger in Chapter 2, which was nice. Some of their classmates also get thrown into the Dark World, specifically Noel and Birdley. Birdley was pretty cool. I did like how arrogant he was and how it would always blow up in his face. He was used for a lot of comic relief, mostly the characters just trying to avoid him because he's annoying, and it led to some of the game's funniest moments. Noel kinda contrasts Birdley's attitude by being friendly and shy, but I did like seeing her slowly open up and become more brave, as well as also seeing her relationship with Susie develop. In this chapter, the area of the Dark World you explore is Cyber City, which has a lot more of a technological atmosphere than the board game aesthetic of Chapter 1. It has some gorgeous looking places with interesting puzzles and nice music, and just like Chapter 1, the battles are also a lot of fun, as it does an amazing job fleshing out the combat from Undertale, like with the TP gauge and multiple party members. Just like that game, you can still spare all your foes, but come on, that shit's boring. So if you like mass genocide, then you'll enjoy some of the benefits here. What's great about the combat is how it takes more of a bullet hell approach to gameplay, where it's up to you to dodge attacks and not get hit. The main antagonist this time was Queen, who is the source of a lot of humor in this chapter. She's basically just a computer, and her quips can lead to some of the funniest moments in the game. A minor issue some could point out is how until the end, she isn't much of a threat besides one or two lines where she talks about her evil plans or whatever, but honestly I can excuse it because she's just funny. And she does lean into a lot of meta humor, which I understand isn't everyone's cup of tea, but I never thought it was a huge issue, not to the point of making this chapter worse or anything. Still, towards the end, she managed to feel like a genuine threat with an epic and climactic final boss. So overall, yeah, this chapter was very enjoyable. The first two chapters already rival the length of Undertale, and Deltarune is free. The writing is often very funny, but serious moments still feel genuine, and the gameplay is enjoyable with really fun combat and great puzzles. You can really tell that Toby Fox just made the game he wanted to make, and I really respect him for that. And I didn't even mention Spamton, the internet's favorite character from this chapter. This shady guy basically being the embodiment of fishy ads on websites was really funny. Not to mention, he gets a second form and a secret boss, and like, that's so cool! What are you waiting for? Go play Deltarune! Toby Fox really has something good going on here, and I can't wait to see how the story and lore expand with future chapters. This year, Nintendo ported Mario 3D World to the Switch, and you know, that game is still great, but it also has a new side mode, kinda like the Mario and Luigi remakes, but unlike those modes, this one is really damn good. Bowser's Fury takes the building blocks established by 3D World, like the power-ups and the control, and creates an entirely new take on the 3D Mario Collectathon formula. Mario is no stranger to having open-ended levels. He's been doing it since Mario 64, but unlike 3D World, which contains world maps and linear obstacle courses, Bowser's Fury is a completely open-world game. You don't even jump into paintings or anything, you just grab Plessy and ride to any island you want. The game contains locations that aren't exactly like the playgrounds you'd find in Mario 64, which were open-ended enough to have multiple missions to do. The islands here do have multiple cat shines, but they feel like the linear courses of 3D World with their own gimmick and such, and most of the islands do have repeated objectives, but which cat shines you collect and when you collect them is all up to you. And all of the levels are very memorable, with a constant stream of new gimmicks and ideas. Bowser's Fury also shares all the power-ups you'd find in 3D World, which in my opinion is really cool. In most 3D Mario games, power-ups are very situational, and they aren't like they were in the classic games, or they would just give you an extra move or two, so seeing Bowser's Fury have that original power-up philosophy was nice. And of course, there's a main aesthetic of Fury Bowser, and man, I just think he looks super cool. I love his design. And I also love the concept of a super dark and powerful Bowser. When the sun goes down, Fury Bowser goes up. He makes it a little more challenging to get to places because of how he tries to kill you and all, but I do love how it creates a lot of tension to contrast the usually calm bits of exploration. Oh, and you can't forget how you transform into a damn Super Saiyan lion to go head to head with Fury Bowser in a full-ass kaiju battle. Now that's just awesome. Still has nothing on Koopzilla from the Super Show though. Did I mention the soundtrack is great? Bowser's Fury may be short, but it's still very fun and replayable. It has a lot of potential with its concepts that really make me wish it was fleshed out into a full Mario game. If there are more courses that are more open to fit multiple objectives, and maybe have toad houses to get power-ups, rather than finding them in specific courses, and add in the ambition in Bowser's Fury, it could really create a masterpiece of a game. Combining this with 3D World into one $60 package might just be one of Nintendo's best Wii U ports in my opinion. Both games are great, and can appeal to both crowds of Mario fans, so it may not be as long as Galaxy or Odyssey, but either way, what we got was really good, and it surprised me how creative and fun the so-called side mode ended up being. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is the true next-gen experience that us PS5 owners have been waiting for. Stunning graphics with beautiful locations, barely any loading screens at all, and great use of the adaptive triggers and haptic feedback, as well as making use of the PS5 cards and offering game tips for PS Plus subscribers. What do you mean people don't care about the cards? Aside from Returnal doing a few of these things, but it was also a pretty niche game, Rift Apart is a game that has very wide appeal. It does a great job at showing everyone how this new generation is going to work. It is more than a technical marvel for the PS5, however. It also had great gameplay. I love me some Ratchet & Clank gameplay. Just being able to tear through so many enemies with so many unique weapons is just so fun, and Rift Apart definitely delivers on this. The Ricochet, the Warmonger, the Shatter Bomb, the Lightning Rod, the Negatron Collider, and the Pixelizer, which turns enemies into a pixelated mess, it is my personal favorite. Oh god, not again. And of course, many more. The game isn't that challenging, but you do have to switch between weapons a lot due to limited ammo, so you can't just stick with your favorite the entire time. It can get kind of brainless at times, but I don't know, I just think it's really fun. This game also introduces some new mechanics to evolve the Ratchet & Clank gameplay formula, like the Phantom Dash, which lets you dash and phase through projectiles, allowing for more direct attacks from bosses, and the Rift Tethers, which let you grapple to a different point in the area to gain the upper hand in combat by quickly reaching a different angle. There's also some platforming in there too, which is something the 2016 game can barely say. It was one of my biggest issues with that game, and I'm glad to see it resolved. It also introduces some fast-paced segments. We're going through some intense sequences like rapidly shifting dimensions, or rail grinding on a giant robot trying to kill you. Those kind of moments were really fun. I enjoyed the story in this game as well. We're introduced to Ratchet's dimensional counterpart, Rivet, who's similar to Ratchet, but they have different personalities that aren't just opposite of each other. We also get to see some more counterparts, like Emperor Nefarious to reflect Dr. Nefarious, and in the Emperor's world, he always wins. And Rivet is part of a resistance to rise up and defeat him. Also, would you look at that? Captain Quark's dimensional counterpart is an actual hero. Clank's dimensional counterpart, nicknamed Kit, does a great job reflecting Clank, because instead of being a failed warbot, she is an actual warbot, but she doesn't like violence, and struggles with turning into one and losing control of herself. Seeing her become less timid and open herself up to others was very endearing, as well as seeing Rivet and Kit's relationship, and how it explores how forgiving people can be tough. The story wasn't my favorite part, but it was a pleasant surprise. If you're looking for a medium-length, fun platformer with great shooter elements and a solid story, and you also happen to have the PS5, give this game a shot. This year gave us the highly anticipated JRPG Shin Megami Tensei 5. Of course, with me being a huge Megami Tensei fan, it's no surprise this game is pretty high on the list. And that's because Atlus delivered once again with an amazing JRPG. The bread and butter of this game, the combat system, is simply fantastic. I love it. This is some of the best turn-based combat I have ever seen. The way the game incentivizes you to exploit weaknesses and land critical hits to gain extra turns in combat adds so much strategy to how you play out your battles, with what to do and when to do it. It also makes its own fair share of tweaks to the already existing press turn system, like with the new Magatsuhi gauge. It builds up over time in battle, and with a full bar you can execute a variety of skills. The issue with this, however, is that the very first one you get, which makes all your attacks for an entire turn count as critical hits, is basically the best one in the entire game, because it opens the door to a lot of strategies. Not to say the others were bad, but in most cases, Omagatoki Critical was just the best option, considering how enemies can also use this skill, so it isn't completely unbalanced. Plus, it is super useful. I don't really have any issues with it. They also changed the way in which buffs and debuffs work to be in line with that other Megaten spin-off series that you all know about. I made a vow not to say its name because all my homies hate IGN. I don't really mind the new method because it keeps things engaging. SMT5 also throws in a lot of bosses that all challenge you in their own unique ways. There's more challenge beyond just the combat, and that's building the perfect team to handle the challenges this game throws at you. All the enemies you fight are demons from lots of different mythologies, deities, or some original ones. You can recruit just about every demon you see to your team via negotiation, which is sometimes about satisfying them with right answers that match their personality, but mostly just how willing you are to give them Maka and items. The fact that they all have their own unique personalities is pretty cool, and they say something funny every now and then. There's a lot of strategy to build your team to endure the challenges in this game, not to mention how you have to keep up and get new demons, because because they level up a lot slower than you do. You can even fuse 2 demons together to make a new one, which has a lot of strategy in how you make them. You can also collect demon essences that let you teach skills to any of the demons you have recruited, and in the protagonist's case, you can even inherit a demon's elemental affinities. You can really customize the protagonist to your liking by choosing where an extra bonus point goes when you level up, and of course, you can also really customize your entire party of demons. The game also introduces a lot of exploration elements, and I gotta say, exploring the environments in this game was really fun. The locations are beautiful, and I loved the way the destroyed city fused with this new post-apocalyptic desert. There's also lots of other pathways that you can take that will lead you to some collectibles, abscesses, or side missions. In general, this game just has so many quality of life options that make the experience very pleasant. Save points also give you access to the Cathedral of Shadows, Gustavo's shop, fast travel to other save points, and the ability to heal your party with money. That's just so damn convenient. The music also does a great job at building the atmosphere of this place, and I almost forgot to mention, this soundtrack is really good. The battle theme goes hard. To be honest, I haven't finished SMT5, so I can't comment much on the narrative, because in the roughly 20 hours I played, not a lot happened, to be honest. This could actually be for the better in some eyes, because from what I hear online, the story is kinda disappointing, which I can't confirm because I haven't finished it. I would certainly like to eventually, because my experience so far was really damn good, but just know that there is a slight chance that if I did go and finish it, the ranking could have been a little different. Either way, I mostly wanted this game for the gameplay, and Atlas definitely delivers a great package on that front. Psychonauts 2 is easily the most creative game I've played this year. First of all, there's of course the art direction, which really looks great, and is a kind of art style you really can't find anywhere else. Dare I say it had the best art direction of 2021?
What should I go pick?
Fuck you, Game Awards! All the characters have really cool and memorable designs that all look pretty zany and cartoony, but that just adds to the charm of this game. Not to mention, this game has a lot of clever, witty, and humorous writing that makes it even more charming. The game is a platformer, but they still put their own unique spin on it. You play as Raz, an intern for the Psychonauts agency who has lots of psychic powers that get used in fun, satisfying, and creative ways. A lot of them are ones you don't really see in platformers, and they're fleshed out in great ways that make it really fun to play. You can also upgrade them too to interact with the environments in even more ways. You can tell the level design prioritizes fun more than difficulty, which that isn't bad because it isn't saying it's never complex, because it can be at times. But what I'm saying is that I didn't struggle with the levels very often, and that's not a bad thing. The game also has a lot of collectibles to add a lot of replay value, and I've honestly been considering going after the Platinum Trophy in this game, if I ever have enough time. For a platformer, Psychonauts 2 has some really fun combat. It really pushes you to use all the abilities you have in interesting ways to keep you on your toes. The bosses are also really fun, and the game has a great variety of enemies that all function very differently. They also reflect negative mental things that cleverly influence how they behave in battle and hint at how you have to take them down. Bad ideas blow up in your face, doubts hold you back, censors roam for thoughts that don't belong and assume you are one by attacking you, and Judgment takes the role of a literal judge from a court of law. To defeat bad moods, you have to use the clairvoyance ability to find the source. To kill panic attacks, you have to use the time stop ability to just slow them down. And this game also taught me that my doubts are flammable. The reason why enemies are manifestations of these negative ideas is that all the levels take place inside of people's minds. You know how platformers usually have common level tropes like grasslands, deserts, forests, lava areas, snow areas? Yeah, well, Psychonauts 2 says fuck you to all that and has lots of really unique locations. I dare you to try and find another platformer that has levels like the library level, the bowling level, the mail level. What I also love about this is how it allows the game to explore the character's thoughts and trauma, not only through its great narrative, but in its level design too, which is really cool. These characters really feel like real people who need a helping hand, and people that are going through some rough times in their lives. And I love how the level design displays this. One of the characters develops a gambling addiction, so you must travel into their mental casino and progress by rigging the odds in your favor. One of the characters has a fear of being judged, so you must participate in a live cooking show in front of a lot of people as you use Raz's psychic abilities to create dishes to impress the judges. By the way, this cooking show was one of my favorite parts. And another character has just had their brain put back into a body, so they go into sensory overload, displayed by the incredibly vibrant colors in this place, and how you have to gather the 5 senses to form a band, which is really unique, on top of symbolizing how he has to come to grips with all of his new senses. So yeah, Psychonauts 2 is really unique in almost every aspect. These top 3 games really fought it hard, and while it only gets the bronze medal, I still adore Psychonauts 2, and can highly recommend it to platformer fans. It's no surprise Persona 5 Strikers is near the top of this list. As many of you know, I absolutely love Persona 5. I loved just about everything about it except for this one scene. I was very excited to get to play a follow-up to one of my favorite games ever. Right as I started playing, I soon realized that it was more than the spin-off I thought it was going to be. I made an entire video analyzing my thoughts on the game, so if you're interested in my more detailed thoughts, then you can go watch it. It's one of my longest videos so far, and I'm so proud of how it turned out. Basically, what you need to know is that it deviates in some areas, like the structure, due to the lack of social sim elements, and mainly the combat because of how it isn't turn-based anymore. It's an action RPG, and more specifically a Musou game. But the Persona 5 combat system translated very well into this new approach. Dare I say that this combat is better than Persona 5 Royal? I know I was kinda conflicted between them in my original review, but I think I can now conclude that just tearing through so many enemies is more satisfying than the turn-based system. I love both of them, but I think Strikers is more replayable because of that. You can control all the Phantom Thieves that all play differently with their combos, stats, and their personas. Not only do you have to alter between normal and special attacks to rack up devastating combos, but you have your persona skills that are still very useful. Now they affect any enemies within its radius, making them not only great damage dealers, but an effective method of crowd control too. And once you strike an enemy with their weakness enough times, you can unleash an all-out attack to deal a ton of damage. Also, trust me, mindlessly button mashing will get you nowhere in this game. I learned that very quickly in my playthrough. The dungeon design does feel more straightforward than Persona 5, but I did like some of the gimmicks, like being able to bust through windows to ambush enemies in Okinawa. The dungeons still look great though, and for the most part, this game retains the original style from Persona 5. Also, the soundtrack, I absolutely love it. All of the songs and remixes are fucking beautiful and go so hard. So, can you put it on Spotify now, Atlas? Please? Oh, and the story is actually pretty damn good too. The Phantom Thieves go on a summer road trip as they do stuff like going to the beach because it's an anime game, visiting landmarks and restaurants, and of course, fighting literal gods to save humanity because it's SMT. The thieves have to deal with a new change of heart epidemic, as well as the rebirth of another cognitive world. But to my surprise, it didn't feel lazy at all. The explanations were comprehensible, and I was eager to learn more about the cognitive world because of how interesting it was, and the jails are clearly distinct from palaces, and the story is filled with tons of great moments that kept me on the edge of my seat. Persona 5 focused mostly on corrupt beings and how their victims were affected by them, but Strikers takes a new approach by having villains be very sympathetic, and it reflects a theme of understanding the human heart. We get to learn all their trauma that shaped them into who they are, and for some of them, it may be questioned whether or not they were really villains. I won't go too far into this, because I did already make a 40-minute analysis video about P5 Strikers, so if you want to know more about what I think, then there you go. And I can't not mention the 2 new characters this game brings to the Phantom Thieves. Sophia was great, and I loved seeing her understand how humans work, but I really think Zenkichi was the star of the show, being one of my new favorite thieves. I love his personality, and his chemistry with the thieves can be pretty funny, but more importantly, his backstory was so tragic, and it really made me want to continue with the game to help the man out. Yeah, I really like this game, and I haven't seen this game get nominated for jack shit this year. Maybe it was because it was technically not released in 2021, but the argument of the game coming out in 2020 doesn't really work when you see all the awards Persona 5 got in 2017, but if you like Persona 5, I would say this is a must play. Before we dive into what my game of the year was, I'd like to give a few honorable mentions, because these games were good and all, but just weren't enough to make to the top 10. First, there's Kenna Bridge of Spirits. It's a game with a beautiful art direction, nice exploration, intense combat. I got to play it for a few hours and enjoyed what I played. Second, there is Returnal. This may seem weird since in my review I gave it a 9 out of 10, which technically it is deserving of one, but I don't know, I just like the other games on this list more, even if it is a really good roguelike. I mean, I guess you could say it's objectively better than a game on this list like the new Mario Party, but sorry, I just like Mario Party a lot. And lastly, there's It Takes Two, the so-called best game of 2021. Okay, I'm not saying you're wrong for liking this game that much, but Come on guys, I just think there is a lot more games that beat It Takes Two this year. Sure, it is a really fun cooperative experience with great puzzle solving that has a lot of variety, and what's cool is how only one person needs to own the game, because your friend can just download the friend pass to join you for free, which is great for making this game more accessible, but I just didn't think it was better than the rest of the games on this list, sorry. I played it with my good friend Repulsive, and yeah, we had some fun with the game. I just didn't think it was Game of the Year potential. I'll be honest, I think Portal 2's co-op is better. In fact, what did you think about it, Repulsive?
This game blows!
Now, what was my Game of the Year? Well, it should be pretty obvious, but here you go. Metroid Dread might just be the best Metroidvania I have ever played, because it's like one of the only ones I have played. Yeah, so not only was Dread my first experience with Metroid, but now that I think about it, it might be the first Metroidvania I've ever played, and considering how high it is on the list, yeah, you can tell that I really liked it. Metroid Dread just feels amazing to play. Samus's movement is so precise and fluid, and you have full 360-degree aiming that just feels perfect. Plated ZDR is a really cool setting, with great aesthetics, good level design, and some memorable set pieces. Thanks to the perfect controls, exploration feels really good. And this non-linear game does a great job rewarding your curiosity with upgrades to your missile capacity, energy tags, and of course the upgrades. I found myself playing this game for hours at a time because of how invested I was in this, always wondering what it would find next, like a new area to explore, another challenging boss, or a new ability. Oh, the abilities! This game is packed with tons of upgrades that let Samus perform new abilities that are not only very useful and feel great to pull off, but they add to the ways in which you interact with the environment. Now that you got this new upgrade, you can go back to those rooms you passed by earlier and discover more paths in Planet ZDR. And like I said, exploration is really damn fun. Going from a bounty hunter that can only really shoot, slide, jump, and counter, to an absolute badass that can use every button on the controller felt so satisfying. My favorite upgrade to the speed booster, because of the fun puzzles it creates, and the flash shift, which was super useful in combat and essential in bosses. Metroid Dread has a lot of boss fights that'll kick your ass, but I mean that in the best way possible. Instead of getting frustrated when I die, I found myself wanting to keep playing, because of how fairly this game presents its challenges, as well as the internal drive to get better, cause I'm not gonna let Kraid triumph against me. The game also introduces enemy zones, where the robots will lurk and they will kill you on sight, with their attacks being near impossible to counter. The enemies created genuine fear for me because of how intimidating they are, especially later on in the game when they have unique abilities. You have to wait until you get an ultra cannon to kill them, and it's oh so satisfying. Both the enemies and this game's main antagonist really earn this game the title of Dread because of the dreadful atmosphere they create, not to mention how this game isn't afraid to kick your ass hard in bosses. The story wasn't much, to be honest. Sure, I did like characters like Ravenbeak, and I enjoyed how Samus is a badass, as well as the atmosphere of dread this game creates, but there wasn't a whole lot of story in this game, and that's okay, because the gameplay was so strong, it managed to be my favorite game of 2021, and it had some pretty fierce competition. What the fuck is that noise? Dude, what the hell? You broke the lights!
Brandt, I come all the way from Mexico. I have to say something.
What do you want?
Say something, Brandt. Reminder to subscribe and fucking buy Metroid Dread, or I'll break your fucking knees!
And that's the end of my top 10 list. Overall, there were a lot of games that came out this year that are pretty damn good. Feel free to discuss your favorite games this year and why, but please don't plot an assassination against me for a ranking you disagree with. I find it very unlikely we have the same lists, so that's why I'd like to hear you guys' personal rankings. Just remember to stay civil in the comments, please. Who am I kidding? My opinions are objective facts that'll go down in history. What's up, guys? Thanks for actually sticking to the end of the video, because I know some people just skip to the end to see what I put for number 1. Whoever's doing that, yeah, I see you. It's kind of been a while since I came on after the script to just talk about updates and stuff, so figured I might as well do that. First thing I'd like to talk about is holy shit, thank you guys for the explosive response to the Mario retrospective video. It took exactly 24 hours for it to be my most viewed video, and that's fucking crazy, because my most viewed video at the time was over a year old, so I really didn't expect it to happen that fast. And I did spend a long time on that Mario video, so seeing it do so well was really great. And also, we actually hit 100 subs. Thanks a lot for that, guys. My goal for 2021 was to hit around 100 subs, so I guess we succeeded in doing that, so I can only thank you guys for that. And you know, since this part was about like reflecting on the games I played in 2021, I thought it would be fitting to reflect on how this channel has been in 2021. Overall, I've had a lot of fun making videos this year. You can really tell my video quality has improved a lot over the last year, which is really good since you can tell I'm getting better at this stuff. And hopefully I'll continue to get like even better. But in terms of like the videos I've made this year, yeah, I've made some that I'm still pretty proud of. I got to cover some of my favorite games of all time, like, you know, Castle Crashers, The Last of Us, and like the Genesis Sonic games, like, you know, mostly Sonic 3. So I'm really glad to be able to do that. But you can tell that like towards the beginning of my channel, I was covering some more like, I guess, random games. Like my first videos are like Astro's Playroom and like Spider-Man Miles Morales, which of course they're like good games I'm like interested in and shit, but it's just kind of weird for like a starting video. My mindset back then was like, oh, I have this brand new PS5, so my first videos can just be me covering some new PS5 games, so I did that for a while. But the farther the channel got, you can really tell I started talking about games I'm a lot more passionate about, and I'm really glad to do that. My most random video was probably the fucking Downwell one, which that sounds really weird because like the story behind it is actually really funny, because like I downloaded Downwell on the PlayStation Store in literally like 2017. I barely played it, and then sometime in like March of last year, I was just looking through my PlayStation library. I said, oh, it's that Downwell game that I never played. Maybe I should play it. I played it for like an hour. I was like, oh yeah, it's kind of fun. Maybe I could make a really short video just talking about it, because why not? And it's still my shortest video to date. Some of you guys might be wondering, oh, well, what do you have in stock for 2022? Well, I have a lot of videos planned. I got a lot of games on this shelf, so I'm not running out of shit to cover anytime soon, trust me. One of the main things I want to cover in 2022 is the 3D Sonic games, because, you know, I'm really passionate about Sonic, and last year I covered, like, the Genesis games and Sonic Mania, which is also a 2D game, as well as Colors, because, you know, the remaster came out, so it was a fitting time. But it only makes sense for this year to cover games like, oh, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Heroes, so on and so forth, which it will be fun because after the Genesis games, the games get a lot more divisive, so it'll be fun to make videos about those games because most of which I actually really like, so I'll be pretty passionate about them. And maybe this year I'll be able to get to Sonic 06, which that'll be interesting because it's Sonic 06, and I haven't actually played that much of the game even though I do own it. And since we just covered all the classic Mario games, I'd like to let you guys know that there'll be a lot more Mario on this channel because, to be honest, before making that video, it really surprised me how I've barely talked about Mario on this channel because I really like Mario games. So I'll be covering a lot more games, like, you know, mainly the 3D games like Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine. However, before that, there will be some other games I want to cover first, like, you know, Yoshi's Island, because I also really like that game and it's a good time to make it. And I also plan on making some videos on the Mario RPGs, like, you know, Paper Mario, because I've been playing those recently and I think it'll be pretty interesting to make videos on them. A video on Paper Mario won't be my next vid, but it will be happening pretty soon, so you can look forward to that. And I'll probably cover its sequels like Thousand Year Door and maybe Super Paper Mario, which I actually still haven't played this one. And fuck it, speaking of Mario RPGs, maybe one day I could talk about the Mario and Luigi series, because I've been getting into that series a lot, because the games are really good, so I like to share my thoughts on them someday. And I also have the rest of the Luigi's Mansion games to cover, like, you know, Dark Moon and Luigi's Mansion 3, as well as a 3DS remake, because I have played that, so you can look forward to those pretty soon. And I do have a lot more franchises to cover besides just Mario and Sonic, like, you know, Metroid, because you guys really like that Metroid Dread video, and I've been playing some more Metroid games too. So maybe one day I could cover a game like Metroid Prime, since I do own it on my GameCube. And then there's also Persona, and in general just Shin Megami Tensei, which I've barely talked about so far. It's one of my favorite game franchises, really, so I'd love to talk about games like maybe Persona 3 and Persona 4 if I get enough time this year. And you know, there are a lot more franchises I can cover someday because, you know, have a lot of games on that shelf, but I don't want to blow my load entirely here since I don't want to just reveal everything before the year really starts. So just know that not only am I going to cover a lot more Sonic and Mario, but a lot of other series, some of which I also grew up playing, so you can definitely look forward to that. And with that, I've talked about mostly everything I wanted to, so with that, hope you guys have a great day, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in Season 2.